I just didn't want to talk about it because I was embarrassed, I was ashamed, I was upset. And you know, no one wants to disappoint their parents, no one wants to upset their parents. That's like the last thing I wanted to do. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Shanna, and today I am refilming my 15 and pregnant story. I am so sorry for this horrendous glare. I know it's obnoxious, but it is like almost midnight and there is obviously no natural light at midnight, so this is what I have to do. But about 6 months ago, I filmed one of my very first videos. It was my 15 and pregnant story, and I cringe at it so hard. I do not like it. It wasn't good. I left out a lot of things, so I'm here today to refilm this. I've been wanting to do it for a while now, and I just like haven't had the time. Right now is also probably not the best time to do it. I didn't write anything down. I didn't really plan this super well, so I'm so sorry if this video is all over the place. I will try my best. But yeah, let's just get right into the story. So I changed the angle slightly, so hopefully that helps with this glare. To start off, me and my baby daddy, we met back in, oh god, I don't even know. We've known each other for like a really long time, but we started like talking in November of 2016. If you know me, I'm the worst with dates, so if I get my dates all mixed up, I'm super sorry. But yeah, we met back in November of 2016. He asked me out like a million times, and I kept kind of like rejecting him because I wasn't like ready for a relationship. I kind of just wanted to like focus on myself, my little 15-year-old self. No, I was like 14. But I just like didn't want to be in a relationship yet. But eventually he ended up asking me out another time, and I said yes. And we officially started dating January 11th of 2017. Our relationship escalated pretty quickly. We both previously have not had a sexual relationship before, so everything was pretty new to us. I was on birth control since I was like 13 or something like that. Not because I was sexually active, but because I had bad acne. Within like the first month, 2 months, we started having sex. And I was on birth control, so you know, I thought I was fine, but just in case, we still use condoms on top of that, just because we obviously did not want a baby at 15, and he was 14 at the time. So we were using condoms every time, and I was taking my birth control. I wasn't the absolute best at taking my birth control, I could admit that. I wasn't fully educated on how to take it properly. Not blaming anyone, I wasn't fully educated on it. So I would take it at different times. So like, let's say I would take it at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then the next day I would take it at like 10 o'clock at night. When you're supposed to take it at the same time every single day. And now of course I know that, but back then I did not, and I thought, you know, I'm safe, I'm fine. So yeah, that continued, you know, for a while. And then around April or March 11th, we had an incident where the condom actually broke. We had 2 of these incidents. So we were like, F, like, shite. And, you know, we just kind of like played it off. Like, I'm on birth control, I'm fine, I'm covered, I am good. Like, we didn't stress about it, it's fine, whatever. So then April rolls around and I start feeling like not okay. I hadn't missed my period yet, so I wasn't like completely worried, but my boobs were so sore, and I never get sore boobs. I've never had it before. With my period, never happened. I don't know, I just didn't get it. So I was like, this is weird. And of course I was 15, I didn't know the symptoms of pregnancy. So I kind of like Googled a couple things. I kind of got a little freaked out, and I called Xavier and I was like, hey, like, I think that I might be pregnant. Like, I don't know, probably not, but you know, just letting you know. And then a few days later, I started feeling nauseous. I went to school. I was in art class and I had to run to the bathroom because I just like needed to throw up. You know how like before TMI, before you throw up, your mouth starts to get really watery? I was getting that. So I ran to the bathroom and I threw up, and I called Xavier right away. I was like, Xavier, something is wrong. Like, I really think I'm pregnant now. That day happened to be a Tuesday, which is when my school, we have like a little clinic in our school, and it happened to be open that day. So me and my friend decided, because I had kind of told her before like how I was feeling and that I think I might be pregnant. So we went to the teen clinic, and it was super awkward because there were so many like kids that I knew there, and I was like, oh, they all know. Obviously they didn't, but like I felt like they did. And then they call me in and they asked me to pee in a cup. We go into this little clinic and there's like a strip and a bunch of rooms. So we go into the first room and I'm sitting there and I'm waiting, and we were waiting for like probably like 20 minutes. So we're like, what's up? Like, something has to be wrong. So I was kind of like really freaking out, and my friend's like, what if it is? And we were just talking about all these like what ifs, and we're like, you know, it's probably not. We should calm down. Like, it's fine. Like, I'm not pregnant. And then finally, like 20 minutes later, the nurse comes in and she is silent. So automatically I knew. I was like, I'm pregnant, aren't I? And she was like, the test turned out you are pregnant. And I kind of just sat there. I had my head down. I was just like numb almost. And like, I wasn't in complete shock. I was in shock for sure. But you know, I knew what I did. I know that like, I knew the consequences. So I was just sitting there for probably what felt like half an hour, but it was probably only like 5 minutes, just with my head down. The nurse was in the room. She wasn't talking. We were kind of just like all silent. And Andrea, which was my friend that was with me, she was in shock. She kind of just like sat there. She didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. And it was very emotional. I cried. I was just numb. And so the nurse finally started talking, and she, you know, of course tells me all my options and stuff. Oh wait, I wanted to show you guys the tests. These are the 2 tests. Are they the right way? These are the 2 tests that I took, and they were dark. Let's see, wait for it to focus. They were dark. So the nurse was like, you must be pretty far along if they're that dark. And I was like, I have no idea. So we kind of figured out an estimate of how far along I was, and we decided that I was like 8 weeks along. I didn't really want to hear everything that the nurse was saying. I kind of, you know, just wanted to go home. I wanted to be by myself. I wanted to like think about this. But she ended up sending me over to the therapist that was there. And we talked for like an hour, and the whole time I just wanted to go home. I wanted to tell Xavier. I wanted to just think. But we talked for like an hour, and you know, she was telling me all my options again, and she was asking me how I felt about it, how my parents were, if I think they would be supportive, if I think they would be really mad, and how Xavier would feel. And yeah, that went on for a while, and she referred me to pediatricians, therapists, just a bunch of people. She gave me so many papers, and then we finally got to go home. So I asked Andrea if she could come over, because I decided that it might be better if she comes over with me to tell Xavier, just because I needed someone. Like, I am that person that's awful at telling people things. I'm like a people pleaser. I don't want anyone to be upset with me. And of course it wasn't my fault. Well, it was both of our faults, you know. He's the guy, I'm the girl, you know how it works. But I was just scared. So she came home with me. We called Xavier, and I was like, hey, can you come over? Like, he was already over every day, so it was kind of weird that I was calling him. He did not know that I was going to the teen clinic. So he didn't really have an idea of what I was gonna tell him. I just asked him to come over and I said we had something to talk about. He lived pretty close to my old place, so he was over within like 15 minutes and he was like, "What's up?" It took me about an hour to tell him. He just kept asking me and I just like couldn't say it. And then finally I went to my closet and I reached in my jacket pocket and I passed these to him, and he didn't know what it was, of course. And I just said, "I'm pregnant." And we didn't talk for the first like 30 minutes. We just sat there. He was crying, I was crying. We were just like hugging in bed, like, what are we gonna do? We didn't say anything. Also, I forgot to add that Andrea was actually in my sister's room at the time because I didn't really want her to be there while I was telling him. I wanted it just to be like an us thing. So we were just sitting there laying together. We didn't really know what to say. And then finally, after 30 minutes, he's like, "What are we gonna do?" And I was still bawling my eyes out, and I was like, how am I gonna tell my parents? How are you gonna tell your parents? Like, everyone's gonna be so mad and so disappointed in us. At this point, we had only been dating for 3-4 months, so the relationship was really fresh, which is the main reason why I was so scared to tell everyone. Like, I was scared everyone was gonna judge me. Of course, I was 15 years old, he was 14, so we would already have a lot of judgment. That night, he ended up actually staying the night, which was never allowed. My dad would never allow that, but we kind of just told him that he had left, we hid his shoes, and he stayed in my room for the night. And we just talked and talked and talked. We talked about our options. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know what was right. Obviously, in the end, we ended up keeping her, and that was the best decision I have ever made in my life. She's so perfect. She's my baby. I love her with everything I have. She definitely made our relationship so much stronger, and everything happens for a reason. I wanted to quickly add, I am not in any way, shape, or form promoting teen pregnancy. It is not a good thing. It is a good thing in a way. Like, I would not trade my life for the world, but you do not want to get pregnant as a teenager. Trust me, it is the hardest thing. It is so hard. I just wanted to quickly add that I am not promoting teen pregnancy. I am educating you, I guess, on it, but no way am I promoting it. But yeah, back to the story. He slept over, we talked all night. We didn't get to sleep until like 5 in the morning because we couldn't sleep. Sorry, Sophia just woke up, so I had to go lay her down. Where was I? Oh yeah. The next day, I needed to tell someone. I just felt like I needed to tell this really good friend of mine. We've been friends since, oh God, we've been friends since like nursery. So I just felt like I really needed to tell her, and I just wanted to tell someone. So I called her and I was like, "You're not gonna be happy with me, but I'm pregnant." So she brought over a pregnancy test for me to take because she did not believe me. This is the one, and it was like, whoa. It was like really dark. So she was like, crap. And of course, me still in shock, I was kind of just like sitting there like, yeah, I'm pregnant. So a few weeks went by. I hadn't told anyone. I was throwing up every day, so many times a day. I kept telling my family that I just had the flu and that everything was okay. I was gonna survive. They did not know that I was sexually active or anything, so they didn't think that I was pregnant. At least I don't think so. A few more weeks went by. It was probably like a month after I found out, and I felt so guilty not telling my parents. I decided to tell my mom first, and because my mom was a teen mom herself. She was 17, so older than me, but she was 17 when she had my oldest brother, so I kind of wanted someone, you know, that I could relate to. How I told her was not the best way, I guess. I was in school, I had just thrown up, and I was like, you know, I need to tell my mom. I wanted to get prenatal care, I needed to tell someone. So I went to the school cafeteria, I sat on the benches. Me and Xavier did not go to the same school, by the way. He went to a private school, and that was like 20 minutes away from my school. So I was by myself. I ended up messaging my mom, and I just said, I'm pregnant. And she thought it was a joke. She thought I was pranking her or something. But I told her that I was serious, and I sent her pictures of my pregnancy tests, and she was like, crap, what are we gonna do? And she wasn't mad. She was obviously very disappointed in me, but her reaction just like, it helped me a lot. She was very supportive. She said, okay, after school I'm coming to pick you up, and we are going to talk about this. We're gonna, you know, work through this. It's gonna be okay. So we did that. She came and picked me up after school, and we talked for quite a while. You know, obviously about my options and everything. She wanted to know like how I found out, when I found out, how far along I was, you know, stuff like that. So we talked for quite a while. I ended up sleeping there, and that's how I told my mom. I'm very happy how supportive she was. It was great. I'm so thankful for it. And then after that, you know, a couple people started finding out, like my mom's friends and stuff, which of course I wasn't happy about. And then one day we were in the car, and my mom says to my brother and my sister, hey, you guys are gonna be auntie and uncles. And they were already auntie and uncles to my older sister's kids. She had 2 kids. So they were like, oh, Chantel's pregnant again? Like, oh my gosh, like how exciting. And my mom's like, no. And I was sitting in the back seat with my siblings, so I had my head down. I was like, crap, like why are you doing this to me right now? And she's like, Shanna's pregnant. And they look at me, they're like, no, you're not. You're joking. Like, are you kidding? Like, no way, not happening. And my mom's like, nope, for real, this is not a joke. And my mom's like, right, Shanna? She like whips her head back, right, Shanna? And I'm like, she's not lying. So that's how my siblings found out. I don't know. I don't really know what my siblings thought. I think they were kind of just like, okay, it's her life, like she's gonna have to deal with it. So yeah, that's just how they found out, whatever. About another month had passed, and my dad had not found out yet. So one day my mom came over, and she's like, you know, you have to tell your dad, like he needs to know, you can't just keep it from your dad. And I felt the same way, like I felt like I needed to tell him, but I just couldn't. I'm a daddy's girl. I didn't want to tell him. Oh, by the way, my parents were split up at the time, so she had a different house from my dad's. So she came over to my dad's place, and we decided that we would tell him together. But I just felt like I just couldn't get the words out. Again, I'm awful with that. I just couldn't get the words out. I was up in my room, sitting on my bed, and my mom was down in her car, and my dad walked out, and she told him right there that I was pregnant, and all he said was, she should have waited. Like I planned it. Whatever. Anyway, so he comes up to the room, my bedroom, and I was dreading this moment. I did not want him to come upstairs. I did not want him to talk to me. Sounds bad. I just didn't want to talk about it because I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I was upset. And you know, no one wants to disappoint their parents. No one wants to upset their parents. That's like the last thing I wanted to do. So him finding out was really hard for me. But he came up to my room, and he sat with me, and we both started crying. I hugged him, and we were both crying. And my dad is not a crier. My dad does not cry. But we were crying, and thank goodness he did not really say anything to me. He was of course like mad about it and sad about it and disappointed, but he held it in. He didn't say anything to me. We just hugged, we cried for like 5 minutes, and then he says, I'll support you through anything, and he walks back downstairs and doesn't talk to me for the rest of the night, thank God. So, you know, I of course told Xavier. He wasn't there at the time, so I told him, and he was so scared to come over because now my dad had known, and that's where we always hung out, because my mom had lived out of the city at the time. So he came over the next day, and my dad didn't say anything. Again, thank God. And we were like, we need to tell your parents now. And that is who we were most scared to tell. We kind of kept it from them for quite a while. Probably another month had passed, and he had finally mustered up the courage to tell them. And I was scared. I was scared of his parents, just because I met them before, but not really. I honestly don't know why I was scared of them. They just seemed intimidating, so I did not want to be there while he was telling them, but I wanted him to tell them in person, and he did not want that, so he ended up telling them over text, just like I did with my mom. And of course they were not happy. They were disappointed, you know, typical reaction. He was 14, so they're obviously not to blame for that. Like, I would, you know, their baby was 14 years old. I get that. So it took them a while to come around. They love her now. They absolutely adore her. They're the best. We love them so much. I want to do a whole nother video on my birth story, so let me know if you guys would watch that and if you guys want me to film it, and I totally will. But I kind of just want to go over in this video how my pregnancy was. I hid my pregnancy hard. I did not want anyone to know. I was ashamed of myself, which is, I mean, I don't know. Looking back, I am mad at myself about that. Like, I did not really get to enjoy my pregnancy. I didn't get to show off my cute little bump. I always wore baggy hoodies. I didn't want anyone to know. I was still going to school. Every class I was throwing up multiple times, so people probably knew already, but I hid it up until, like, oh gosh, I think I was almost 30 weeks when I finally started to tell people. A lot of people were a little bit upset with me that I didn't tell them before, and there's one person that I really regret not telling earlier, and that was one of my absolute best friends, Aaliyah, and I really regret not telling her. But anyway, I went to school up until I was 27 weeks, I guess. Yeah, like 27 weeks. I would still go to the school sometimes and, you know, visit. But at 27 weeks, I went into preterm labor. But I am getting ahead of myself right now. Let's go back to the beginning of my pregnancy. I was pretty dang miserable. I didn't know what pregnancy was. I was scared. I was nervous. So I was always Googling things and like, is this normal? Is this normal? Is this normal? You know. I was throwing up every day, like I said, always throwing up. It was the worst. My throat, like my throat was bleeding. It was raw. It was just awful. So I finally went to my first prenatal appointment, and they had prescribed me this little pill called diclectin, which was an absolute lifesaver. I had already lost, at the beginning of my pregnancy, I was just like 100 pounds flat, and by the time I was 14 weeks, I had lost over 20 pounds. Not good, not healthy at all. It was awful. I looked awful. It was just bad. But after I started taking this pill, I started getting my appetite back. I was doing good. I wasn't throwing up all the time. I threw up still, like maybe once or twice a day, but that was absolutely nothing compared to what I was throwing up. So I was happy. I was, you know, kind of enjoying myself. First trimester, you're obviously exhausted, so getting my butt up to go to school every day was a struggle, and at this time, my dad still didn't know, my siblings didn't know, no one knew. I still went to school every day. I didn't want them to think anything of it. I was exhausted. in every one of my morning classes pretty much, I would fall asleep, and I've never fallen asleep in school, so this is very, very strange for me, and I tried so hard to keep myself awake, but I just couldn't. I was extremely exhausted. And then, you know, all the other problems with the first trimester. I did not want Xavier to touch me. I didn't want to cuddle with him. I didn't want to kiss him. I didn't want to show any love or any affection towards him, which I feel so bad for him, and he stuck through it, and he was awesome, and I love and I appreciate him so much for that. If you're watching this, I love you, baby. While editing this, I wanted to quickly add something pretty important or pretty major that happened in my first trimester. So I was supposed to be going on a missions trip to Los Angeles, and I had to tell my church that I was pregnant. To my surprise, they were actually very supportive. The one lady actually ran a teen mom group, which I still attend every week to this day, so thank you for that. But yeah, I was very surprised with how supportive they were. So when I told them I could obviously not go on this missions trip, so I was pretty heartbroken. I was pretty upset by this. I mean, now looking back, it's obvious why I couldn't go. Like, I get it, but I just thought I should add that in because it was a pretty important part of my first trimester. But I was just miserable. And then second trimester rolls around, I was doing good, I was glowing, I was, you know, I was starting to get my little baby bump. And I was starting to feel, you know, a little bit happy, because the first trimester I was just sad and lonely, and I felt so alone. But the second trimester I started feeling better. I started hanging out with my friends again. Of course they did not know, so I was wearing baggy sweaters, and it was summertime. Second trimester, I didn't have really any major things happen. Never mind, absolutely scratch what I just said. I got a kidney infection. I went into preterm labor. I found out the gender. It was a very eventful time. So the first major event that happened in my second trimester was we found out the gender. We had an ultrasound booked for when I was 20 weeks. So we went into the ultrasound, they did their thing, they didn't tell us the gender, which was really upsetting. The doctor made me go into the hallway and do a bunch of lunges and a bunch of squats and stuff to try and make the baby flip so she could get a better view of her heart, which didn't end up working. But whatever, that's besides the point. My best friend was there, my dad, my mom, Xavier, my sister, and I think my brother was there as well. And they didn't tell us the gender, which was really upsetting again. A few days later, I had a doctor's appointment, so she told me there. She literally just walked into the room and she's like, "You know you're having a girl, right?" And I was pretty upset by that. I wanted to have a nice gender reveal, you know, something fun, and she kind of just ruined it in a way, I guess. But whatever. At 24 weeks, I believe, around there, I got a kidney infection, and I have never had any kind of kidney infection, bladder infection, none of that, so I didn't know what it was, or I didn't know the symptoms, I didn't know how it felt. So I went into the hospital. I was in excruciating pain in my back, and all the nurses and doctors thought I was in back labor at 24 weeks, which was terrifying. They were monitoring her, they were seeing if I was having contractions, they were really scaring me. I kept telling them that the pain I felt was in my back, and it was like right here. So they did some tests, and eventually they found out that I had a kidney infection. I was admitted to the hospital, and I had to stay there on a saline drip. Was it saline? I don't know. I had to stay there on some sort of drip for 3 days. Those days were miserable. Xavier stayed with me the entire time. He did not leave my side. He was just the best throughout my whole pregnancy. I love him so much, and I appreciate him again. But yeah, I stayed there for a few days. I was in so much pain, but I eventually got over it. So skipping forward to when I was about 27 weeks, Me and Xavier were, you know, and I started bleeding a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. Like, I don't think I've ever seen that much blood. Besides when I gave birth, you know. I went to the bathroom and I was like bleeding everywhere. I called my mom in because I was at my mom's house. And I yelled to her, I screamed to her, I was like, come here, like right now, I'm bleeding so much, like what's happening? So the bleeding didn't stop. We waited like 10 minutes to see if it would just stop, and it didn't. So we rushed to the hospital, just to, you know, check up, see what's going on. I was obviously so worried, so was Xavier, we were all so worried. So they admitted me to the hospital and I started getting contractions. So scary. I don't think anything will beat that fear. I was only like 27 weeks along. That's terrifying. They ended up checking me to see if I was dilating at all, and I was dilated to a 2. Everyone was in shock. Everyone was terrified. They gave me a shot in my butt. Sorry, my phone died, so I'm sorry if the angle is slightly different. But yeah, they gave me a steroid shot in my butt. They gave me one in the morning and then one at night. And they also put me on this, I don't know what the medicine was called, some sort of medicine to stop the labor, and it did, thank goodness. I was in the hospital for like a week after that, just so they could monitor me and baby. And Xavier was with me the whole time. He was being amazing. I'm sorry if I'm rushing this last little bit. My phone is literally on the verge of dying, but I really wanted to finish this video. But yeah, Xavier was with me the whole time. He didn't leave my side. And yeah, I got discharged. I was good. They actually ended up putting me on bed rest. That's when I stopped going to school. I was not allowed to go to school. So I was pretty upset about that. I wanted to be able to be with my friends, you know, be with people, socialize, and I still did, I guess, just not as much. So in between then and 35 weeks, not much happened. I continued to dilate, not very fast, just, you know, at about 30 weeks I was 3 centimeters, and then at 34 weeks, I was 4 centimeters, and then from 34 to 35, that is when I gave birth. I had my daughter at 35 weeks. She was so healthy, she was so amazing. She just passed the birth weight to be able to not go to the NICU, which was so exciting. I was so happy, but I will talk about that all in my labor and delivery video. So with all that being said, I guess that this is it for this video. I really hope I did not miss anything this time. If I did, I will definitely just add it in the video. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. I am going to start doing comment of the day week thing. What would it be? I only post once a week, so I guess comment of the week. So if you comment on my video, I will pick a random person, or I'll let Sophia pick or something, and I will give you guys a shout out at the end of the video. So make sure to comment on this video for a chance to be able to get a shout out from me. It's late, I need to go to bed. I have school in the morning. I have to be up at 5 o'clock, so wish me luck. It is now almost 1 in the morning. Go me. At the end of my videos, I always ramble, so sorry about that. That is it for today's video. I will see you guys all in my next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.